Hello, my name is Gavin Roberts, part of Talking Heads. My presentation is on communication. My objectives for this session will cover reflective practice, particularly Driscoll's model for structured reflection. I will look at the what, my critical incidents throughout this project, the so what, my research into communication, and in particular how that affected our group communication, and the now what, lessons learned, and my personal action plan to take forward lessons learned. Firstly, reflective practice. I was first introduced to this back in 1999 as part of my certificate in education, and I find my role as a manager, in particular at commanding emergency incidents, I find reflection in action occurs regularly, and it enables me to reflect on decisions made and ensure the environment is safer, and it helps me maintain my situational awareness. During my certificate in education, I was introduced to reflection on practice, and I decided to start using Driscoll's model. I found Driscoll's model very useful, and it helped me for that course and after that, but I have noticed in the recent times I have neglected reflective practice. This assignment has actually refreshed that and reinvigorated my approach to reflective practice. The model that we've used as a group is Driscoll's model from 2007, and the three main elements that make up this model of reflection are firstly the what and a description of the event. It is very similar to Borton's model, however with trigger questions, particularly when you get to the second section of so what. This aligns very much to Gibbs's model of 1988 and the reflective cycle there, which I actually find very cumbersome. The key benefit here with Driscoll's, it's very quick and easy to capture information and put them into action. This is actually supported by Finley 2008, who states that busy and overstretched professionals find reflective practice taxing and difficult. I would agree with that, and using this simple model helps structure my thoughts and continue professional development. The final area, the now what, this is identifying my lessons learned and how I'm going to take those forward in my professional practice. So the critical incidents I've reflected on during this project, there's a number of them. Main focus was from the very first face-to-face meeting, as you can see from the photograph, through to emails, telephone conversations, and UVU. UVU is an online chat system very similar to Skype, which enables up to 4 people to meet and discuss at the same time. So my main area of reflection was communications. Key to that being that the Institute of Leadership and Management, the CIPD, the Chartered Institute for Personal Development, and the Project Management Institute recently have identified communications being key for as a manager, but in particular for the completion of projects on time and to reach their goals. So that's why communication I chose as my what to reflect upon. So my research led me then onto the so what, and my area started with communication models, and there were a number of them, and much has been written about communication. Very first one here is a simple mathematical theory of communication from the source through to the destination. What's notable on this is that it has evolved over time, in particular around the noise source. In this early diagram here, it reflects radio intermission and how that could be affected and affect the signal. Going forward, this is advanced. Lundberg 2010 identifies potential barriers affecting communication, and this noise has evolved into a number of factors which I'll come on to next, but also there's a feedback loop which is missing from here to actually confirm that communication has taken place. The areas that Lundberg identifies are 4 main aspects. The process, in other words, a selection of an inappropriate medium, for instance, or the language is poor, feedback or poor listening skills. And then the physical environment itself, the noise, the location of people. We had that difficulty with the team because of location of different members, but we overcame that because we used our process. We used a number of them, the emails as I've mentioned, but also UVU that supported this. Semantics, and I put down language use, and TLAs, 3-letter acronyms, used an awful lot in my business and in other members of the group's day-to-day business, but actually the understanding to go with those. So it's making sure language is clear. The last area, very interesting, psychosocial. The psychosocial aspect links across into your mental model, and it's how we see the world and how we prefer. For instance, our management styles give us biases and values. So that was very interesting. Out of the 4, we managed the process well, we managed the semantic well, and we managed the physical well. But I'm going to focus particularly on the psychosocial, which links into the process aspects. With that in mind, the 3 levels of communication that we used. This linear model, I'm using it now as part of this presentation. You can see from my slides that you can refer to afterwards. There's key features and some pros and cons. This doesn't provide feedback. However, in this instance, with this being an assignment, I will be getting some feedback on this presentation. But it's not the most effective method. Transactional model. This was used significantly during the face-to-face and enabled us to move forward with a lot of ideas. This aligns to the potential for the group dynamics that Sarah's covered, for conflict, particularly during the storming stage. However, we found we navigated this very well, which made me think again, why did we navigate this area so effectively? The final point here from Mr. Covey, that actually when we had our meetings, we confirmed information and we were very open. Nobody had an agenda, we were very focused on the task, but we made sure we listened and we understood before we made any replies. The third method was used a lot during the group as well, was interactional models. We used emails, we've used the telephone, but we also used UVU. UVU is something new to myself. I proposed the use of this to help us once a member of the team had dropped out and to allay any fears. So we could come together very quickly and discuss any issues. It enabled us to share work and actually confirm what we wanted to do next. One of the key aspects with this was making sure that information was understood during our communications. And as George Bernard Shaw states, the biggest problem is that it's actually taken place. We made sure it was confirmed at each stage, from our face-to-face and then through to the interaction through UVU. So how did we work so well together? So my analysis then further led me to investigate communication styles, and also I looked at our self-assessments that we produced for our MPD assignments. And what it identified is that we were all, as Belbin puts it, action-centred, which was actually notable during our initial meetings. We were very focused about the outcome and the task. The questionnaire that I put together identified that the 3 of us, myself, Sarah and Robin, identified with these areas. Myself and Sarah as the rock, as it were, and Robin the peacemaker. But the peacemaker was also quite high in Sarah's, which again links us to identify we were very similar in our approaches. If you look at the appendices with our management styles and preferences and our communication methods. Battenberg 2013 highlights that there is correlation between Belbin's team roles and performance. And as I've said previously, during our Tuckman stage of storming was very clear. I was aware though that from my previous feedback from the MPD assignment that I am a shaper, and there is the potential for shapers to be challenging and provocative. What I endeavoured to do as part of the process of working together was to use my emotional intelligence to ensure that I didn't overpower conversations, which led me to look into more research on Goldman back in 1995, who wrote Emotional Intelligence and brought it to the masses, as it were, to make sure I didn't overpower. And Jacob 2013 identifies that emotional intelligence can improve communication. I would agree with this. Knowing yourself and knowing how you interact can really improve your approach. It covers a number of areas: mental attitude, body language, the active listening, coming back to those barriers and those processes. The process, the communication, and also the psychosocial. Having an awareness of yourself will really support this. So I also asked for feedback against this area from the team members, and they provided very positive feedback that I didn't dominate the conversations. So it's helped me reduce my blind spot. The blind spot is reflected to as Luft and Ingham's 1955 Johari window, which gives you that feedback loop that you know yourself, others will see you, and by sharing some lessons learned and being open to feedback, you can reduce your blind spots. This in turn, as Boyett et al. Identified in 2002, your self-awareness is actually key to your emotional intelligence. So From this assignment, I have taken for myself a number of lessons learned. Clearly, the reflective practice is reinforced, and I will continue doing that going forward. I've also asked for colleagues at work, my managers, peers and direct reports to give me feedback on my communication. I host a number of meetings and I want to find out how well I'm communicating. I will then use this to support my reflection on action and improve my communication skills and enhance my emotional intelligence. Thank you for listening. The next few slides are my references.